Welcome to Inner Voice of Knowing podcast. I'm Kay Doran, a shamanic leadership coach and healer, guiding you through life with a foot in both worlds. When you understand the terrain of the inner landscapes, the mental, emotional, spiritual, and energetic, you will become the leader within your physical life, both personally and professionally. After all, the power of change is in your hands. Let's get this journey started. Welcome everybody back to Inner Voice of Knowing. I'm so thrilled to have Dr. John McSwiney here, an Australian, but over in Victoria, where I grew up. And I've been watching and interacting with John's posts that just, the right people just seem to come up and show, and then have gotten to know you a little bit better, but we've never really sat and chatted. We've sort of done messages backwards and forwards, and I wasn't able to grab your book in person in Melbourne, but that's another story. So first, Dr. John, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for saying yes to coming on.
Okay, it's an absolute pleasure to be here.
I'm fascinated by you from many perspectives. So many men will often say to me, oh, but you just talk like that because you're a woman. So when I'm talking about heart, inner child, things like this, and what really grabbed with me is you are all about talking about the heart and all about talking about the inner child. I mean, you gifted me your beautiful book, The Journey of 100 Hidden Hearts. And even as my husband went through it, he went, wow, this is really good. And then I bought your Heart Unbound. But when I do a little bit of digging about you, Dr. John, I find
Here we go.
I find something just a little bit interesting there.
Really?
Yeah. So you've got degrees in social science, law, Master of Arts and PhD in philosophy from Monash University, a well-known university. Yep. And then I saw inside your book, you've also written on politics and different things. Tell me, how do you go from that background to talking about and working in the space of Heart Unbound, 1,000 Hidden Hearts? I'd love to hear that.
Well, it's called life, and it's a journey, and we all have a path. Some of us actually get to journey on a path that sets our heart and soul on fire. And I have to say that certainly with my journey, it's been, I talk a lot about our human avatars, the personas we create to help us survive through life. And meet the Dr. John human avatar behind me.
The certificate's all behind you. I love it.
Absolutely. And so, you journey through a space where you create an image of yourself to get where you want to go. Earlier, I'm 56 now, going on 17, and joined the Labor Party when I was 17 years of age. Ran for federal parliament in the 1993 federal election. I was going to be Prime Minister.
Wow.
And life took me on another journey. I didn't win the seat. Isaac's here where I am at the minute.
Yeah.
And where I've grown up. And life takes you on these ebbs and flows.
Can I ask at this point, Dr. John, when you're doing that journey and I'm going to be Prime Minister, was that something that was a drive from you, or had it been an influence from external sources of expectations, or is it literally just a component, one part of who you are?
I'd say both.
Yeah.
I'd say both. Sort of growing up, I was born in Scotland, as you can tell from my accent. Went to school there, Northern Ireland as well. Mum's Scottish, Dad's Irish from Derry. And we travelled a lot. From Scotland to the north and here. And Dad was a professional footballer back in the day, so we were all over the place. And they settled here, which was great. And the Troubles broke out in 72 big time back in Derry. And, it was one of those things growing up strong Irish Republican Catholic,
Yeah.
working class, so to speak. And I was like, I looked at mum and dad and it's like, how do I make the world better for these people? How can I pay them back? What can I do? It's like politics. You can get in there, you can make massive change, huge change that really can have a positive impact on millions of people.
Yeah.
And hence my journey into politics.
That was a powerful question you asked yourself. There are some questions that I call power questions because they sort of invoke a deeper response. How can I make the world a better place?
Yeah.
It's a pretty powerful sort of invocation in itself.
Not that I was thinking about it in those terms, but when you sort of reflect back into it, I know that was a key driver for me in regards of joining the Labor Party, being involved, Young Labor, all of that stuff, and moving in that world, in those worlds, in those spaces. And that's pretty much been an underlying theme with myself all through my journey. I've spoken about it before, and that's online and whatever, in regards of my brother Daniel when he was killed by a drunk driver in 1989, and he just turned 20, and it was a week after my 22nd birthday. So that sort of changed my life perspective in regards of the meaning of life, why we're here, what's it all about. It really doesn't matter. And it does matter. So you've got this really rich dichotomy of sitting down saying, okay, I'm not here for a long time. What do I do? But it doesn't matter because we're all going to die anyway. So it's like,
that's big stuff at 21, Yeah,
look, it is. But your world gets turned upside down.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly with the family dynamic in regards of Daniel's death, really fractured the family, mum, dad, and my sister. And you learn to just keep going and to survive. And you keep creating your human avatar.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or so that I can see. Yeah.
And so you get into a position where you're protecting yourself because you don't want to get hurt at that level again. You don't want to be exposed again. And the more that I certainly went down that path, the more I was moving away from me.
Is that a very masculine thing as well? That sort of, be the man, don't be emotional, don't be open in that way.
100%.
Yeah.
The thing about masculinity and toxic masculinity, it's all over the place now, and has been for a number of years. A lot more of it is being exposed. I know when I jump online, I'll have a look on social media. There's a few more things for men that are out there, men's groups, men's weekends and all this type of stuff, the masculine male, and I have to be the male, and you see all these weekends away and things where you've got all these big bunch of blokes who get together, they roll around in the mud,
roaring,
they howl at the moon, and it's great because they're able to release, and then they go home and there's no foundation.
Yeah, what changes?
Yeah, so, the one constant in every single man that might be in these things is a heart, your emotional heart, your spiritual heart, your psychological heart, and connecting in with that takes courage. And a lot of men don't have the courage because they're terrified to go near it, like most people are, because there's a lot in there, trauma, woundings, hurts, pains. There's a reason why we protect ourselves.
Yeah, and that takes vulnerability, and it's not the typical masculine path that boys have been raised into.
No.
It's interesting because you said the word, masculine, the toxic, and I always sit with that word because I feel like for me, we need to take almost that word away and just go, the masculine that's wounded, the feminine that's wounded, all those toxic behaviours come from something that's just sitting there that's so painful. And, words can have a lot of power. And I know exactly where you're coming from when you're talking about it, but then sometimes there just seems to be on social media this judgment around it rather than recognising there's a wound that's that's seated in it.
Yeah. And removing the gender bias, it doesn't really matter.
Mm.
Male, female, him, they, she, her, whatever. We're all human becomings, and we're all in a position where we all get wounded. So irrespective of how we identify, which is another completely different, topic.
Yeah.
We all have a heart. It all gets wounded. It all gets traumatized. And it's that journey back to self. And certainly the path that I've gone down, wanting to help people into that space, like a gentle, grounded, compassionate landing space.
Oh, beautifully said.
That they can start the journey. And it's really important because you jump online and everyone's got an answer.
Mm.
No one knows what the question is, but everyone has an answer. So it's like,
yes.
And it's about gifting yourself. And I always talk about gifting things to yourself because you're worthy of that. You're not giving it to yourself, you're gifting it. And you gift yourself love and compassion and nurturing and caring. And the overwhelming majority of people cannot do this.
Yeah.
Because they're so trapped in their wounds. But you need to find a safe space to journey through this. It's not something you walk in and say, right, I'm going to open myself up today. Great. And you see it all the time on social media when people are posting about, I've just done this course, I've done this program, and they come out of it and their hair's on fire. Not that I've got any left, but their hair's on fire. And they're just full of life and energy and joy and happiness. And I always sit back, it's like, right, where are you in a week?
Yeah.
Where are you in a month? And there's a big rise, and then there's just a drop off to nothing.
We're in that similar age bracket. I'm a few years older, but those old wooden seesaws.
Yep.
And I don't know if you played on those as a kid, where you'd sort of you'd stand in the middle and go bang, 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 and then you'd try to get it balanced. I always feel like life is not meant to be the extreme bang, bang, but it's always just trying to keep that, that balance. But there's always that bit of movement, even in keeping that balanced. And that's, for me personally, where I'd like to be. Do you know what I mean? Not those big extremes. And the over-the-top, I call it the over-the-top happiness, where I'm watching it, but what part are you hiding from everybody? Which makes it so hard for a lot of people to watch social media and go, I can't live up to that,
Completely. And this is the thing. It's like people, and I talk a lot about self-talk, and most of it is corrosive and toxic. So that little voice within us that tells us that we aren't enough, that we're not good enough, that we're never going to achieve that we could never be that we could never do this, needs to be dealt with, okay? And it needs to be dealt with love and compassion and not brutalised. So, that's all part of the journey. And so with Heart Unbound, which is my latest book, it's about gifting people an opportunity to actually get into the space, to come into the space, to be a part of the space, to realise that, here's a key element in your life where you can actually do little things to build a foundation on which you can start to step up.
Yeah.
And so, but you need to have that foundation. And that starts with actually valuing yourself and seeing and feeling yourself as being worthy. And when you start to feel into that space and own that space, irrespective of what's going on around you, the white noise and that sort of, tipping of the seesaw, it doesn't really matter because there's a grounding that happens. And it's a grounding that happens emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, because you're connected in with yourself. And as I explain to people, reading the books, going on the journey, it's not a one-off. It's every day. It's a lifestyle choice.
Yes.
So do your keto, awesome, fantastic.
Yep.
Do the same thing with yourself. So your daily breathing, daily gratitude practice, little things you can do. In my journey of 100 Hidden Hearts, I ask people to do their heart trysts. Tryst is an old world word for a date. So you're actually taking your heart out on a date, which is yourself.
I just love that so much.
So do it. Gift yourself time to do it. That, doesn't mean going out and buying a new Ferrari or, over to Tiffany's to buy a $15,000 whatever. You can just take yourself out and buy an ice cream and sit on the beach.
Yes, exactly. Which is the stuff that I used to do when I went through the divorce, and I, then became a mother with 3 young kids. And I learnt, because I'd been married from such a young age and with that person for 14 years, I decided to just date myself, which I basically learnt to do for 3 years solid. No intimacy with anybody, nothing. And I would do those simple things like just go down to the beach with a journal and an ice cream, or, it's not the go out and buy the new outfit. It's that really getting to know the inner sense of who I was and looking at patterns and, not wanting to jump into a relationship, the same person in a different, in a different body as such. But I love the gentleness of the language that you use, John. And did this come about, that tragic incident with your brother, is that what sent you sort of on your own healing discovery journey? How did you come to all of this, aside from that desire to make a difference?
Well, I might have 117 degrees, but I'm a really slow learner. And I think you get to a point in life where you either make a choice to start healing, or you continue through to your deathbed and then have all those regrets. That Bronnie Ware talks about the, was it 5 regrets of the dying or 10 regrets of the dying or whatever it was called.
Yes,
before.
yeah.
And I didn't want to have that. And so I was, okay, where am I at? What am I doing? Where's my life at? That takes stock. In 1999, 2000, I got an idea for a book and I wrote it back then before any of, social media, anything like that. And it was called The Marble Book of Life. And I wrote it. I got a web page done. I had programs written for it. I was going to go out there and help people live their best lives.
Yeah.
And then I promptly did nothing for nearly 20 years because I didn't believe in myself.
Yeah.
And there was that disconnect from the professional John and the John who I knew I was but was terrified to be.
So the integrative process.
Completely.
Yeah.
And you make mistakes on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, but it's about learning from those. So I talk a lot about healing, learning and growing. And you can heal a part of yourself at a particular level. And then as you journey through life and you learn more and you become wiser, and you can still go back and visit woundings that you may have healed because you might be still triggered by them, but you're coming at it from a place of more compassion, more love, at a higher frequency, so to speak.
Yeah.
So the healings are ongoing. They leave scarring, don't get me wrong, emotional scarring, psychological scarring, spiritual scarring, just like a physical wound does. But if you're still stumbling, getting triggered by things, even though you convince yourself with your head brain that I've done the work and I've done this, and it's like, well, you really haven't.
I did that 2 days at such and such a, I'm healed. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like I've done my inner child work, and it's like it never stops. So that's the, once you actually realise that, you gift yourself an opportunity to say, right, I'm a work in progress till I take my last breath.
Yes.
And then for me it was, what's my legacy? And it's not just about my 3 kids. It's about in X number of generations in the future. So what am I doing to make this planet that we're all on a better place? And so if you believe in past lives and future lives and reincarnation, you're actually creating the future that you're going to be born into.
Yeah.
So what the? So it's like, hang on.
That's a wonderful way to look at it, isn't it?
Well, that's just the reality. And the thing is, if you fervently believe that you're coming back, what are you doing to make the place you're coming back into better?
Mm.
What's the legacy you're leaving for future generations, including this generation, to sort of step up and say, okay, what can I do to make not just myself better, but my world around me better as well? More empowered, more loving, more compassionate, more graceful. Grace is enormous. It's really important. And that's every day. Doesn't stop.
Do you get to talk like this? Because you speak a very similar language to me, and I know that when I first started dating the man that's now my husband, he'd see me looking in the mirror, and I'd be saying things to he's like, "Are you all right?" And I go, "Yeah. I'm just, telling myself I'm beautiful, I'm worthy, I'm this," and then he'd go, "Okay, right." And then he'd see me take deep breaths and he'd go, "You all right?" And I'm like, just keeping myself connected in. And then he learned that that's just what Kay does, So then he didn't worry about it. But I'm still doing those things now. The minute, and I call them false stories and beliefs, or when it comes up and it's like, I'm not worthy, or I'm not this and I'm not that. And I feel like it's, we need to speak to those aspects of ourselves the way we would if it was a child right in front of us.
We are children.
Yeah.
It's just that our physical being is aging.
Yeah.
You speak to, folks and your friends and family. It's like, I don't feel 56. And you go down to I'll go to the Life Saving Club, or I'll go to the footy club or whatever, and we'll sit down, have a chat, or you meet people in the shops, or you're out and about. And it's just like, oh, happy birthday, well done, blah, blah, blah. God, I don't feel 40. I don't feel 35, because emotionally we might have certainly matured, but we feel young at heart. That's what that expression is, being young at heart. So, neuro-linguistically, we're telling ourselves that we're young at heart. I've got all the energy in the world, and my body's like, no, I'm feeling 56 today. After spending all weekend out doing an IRB driver and training course, and you sort of come back and you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So all of that, and especially in Heart Unbound, all of those little practices that you were talking about, looking in the mirror, singing, breathing, all of those things are incorporated into the book. And they're there for a reason, because they're all things that I've had people do over the years to help them basically reconnect. And, everything that's in the book is there to help people on that journey. They're small things, but they're deep, they're profound. And so when, folks are journeying with me, or they're journeying with yourself, if you're in a space and you say, well, let's have a chat about this, why don't you gift yourself this? And then they say yes, and then they don't do it. That's where those rich veins are. So it's like the things that you feel comfortable doing, you will do. The things that you've been avoiding for the majority of your life, you're avoiding them for a number of reasons. And so you'll always find an excuse to do busy, because we choose busy, or we choose procrastinate, or whatever it is that we choose. And I always say to folks, well, they're beautiful little breadcrumbs that you can just follow. And sometimes it's not a breadcrumb, it's a bakery that's just sort of sitting there that needs to be. So if something's stopping you, blocking you, constraining you, restraining you, it's gold, because there's something there that you do not want to go towards. So whether it be standing in front of the mirror and saying, I love you, you're beautiful, I'm really proud of you, you've come such a long way, give yourself a hug, give yourself a pat on the back, you're worthy of that, you are worthy, you are lovable. if you can't stand in front of the mirror and you're avoiding the mirror and you're sort of like this, put the towel over your head and whatever, why is that? What is that? And where in your body is that manifesting? And so, there are beautiful little tells there for you to say, right, what can I do with this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so that's what the whole journey is about building that foundation. And doing it with people that you feel safe with is really important too.
Yes.
So if your ego convinces you that you can do it yourself, good luck. You're not going to get far. So there's a reason why there are people out there that you can journey with through this, so that they can bring you to a space where you can start to unpack.
And you can become more adept over the years the more that you live it. But there are still moments to put your hand up, and go and see someone else.
Totally.
That just helps you with that. And what I love, John, too, is, you keep talking about that foundation and growing it from there, and also the simplicity of some of the things. And yet, I'll quite often say to someone, I can make it more complex for you, but there's no need to, because just like I can send you an email now and you'll get that immediately, it seems so simple, but what's going on in the background has a whole lot more complexity to it. And if it's too complex, we're going to continue to resist it. So do you work with men as well? Because you're talking to me what is just a universal language. And a language of the heart and from the heart. So do you find that men are receptive from the perspective of where you come from as well? Because it's very gentle, it's very nurturing, it's very accepting.
No. Let me simplify that. No. As I was saying before, this is a space that men do not want to be a part of.
Yeah.
So I'd say 95% of the people that I journey with here and around the world are women, because they get it, they understand it, they're more connected. Men have been brought up, have been conditioned, particular ways. Not all men, but certainly those that are willing to actually step up and do that. They're willing to step up for social media to be there. And I was away at, Blokes World the weekend, and I connected with my raw inner, Viking.
Yeah.
Hey, that's wonderful. What are you going to do now? Where's your life at now? It's great that you've made the choice, because it's a choice. You need to make that first choice, to make that first step. And the first step, as we know, is always the hardest. But then it's maintaining those steps every day.
Yes.
And you will fall off the wagon. You will have hard days.
Yeah.
There are, you're always triggered by things. It doesn't matter. You can say to yourself and convince yourself on your social media posts that life is wonderful. And it might not be. But if you've gifted yourself an opportunity to have that foundation that brings you back into balance, you can sit down and say, you know what? I know things aren't great here. They're not great here. This is transpiring here. But I know myself.
Yeah.
And it's going to be okay. Whereas I'm putting out all of these posts and I'm letting the world see all this stuff, and I've gone on this weekend with all the guys and I'm, covered in mud and everyone's crying and all this stuff. And you're like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Where's the deep work? So that's great. You've found your inner caveman, Viking, whatever it happens to be from a male perspective. Where's the deeper work?
Yeah. And what are you doing on a daily, ongoing basis?
Yeah. So
as you were saying, yeah.
There aren't too many Vikings around now. There aren't too many Viking raids you can join in, unless you're online in some, gaming world or whatever.
Yeah.
In the real world, where are you at? And so that's why with the book, Heart Unbound, it's an easier read. It's easier to get into than the Journey of 100 Hidden Hearts, which is just a lot deeper, spiritually deeper, to gift people, male and female, an opportunity to basically say, this is something I can read with my partner. This is something we can do together. And you can hold each other accountable. And so with your accountability buddy, I call them heartbeat buddies.
Oh, I
So
love that.
who's your heartbeat buddy? Is it your partner? Is it a best friend? Is it someone that you've said, come on, I want to get this book. I'm going to actually go through this. We're going to start here. We're going to go through the 28 days to start to build the foundation, to realise that here are little things we can do every day. And so the book goes into that in regards of, gifting yourself those opportunities to step up and say, right, we start off with balanced heart breathing on day one, and I think day two is gratitude, to build that really fine foundation that I can do those two things every day. And then we move through all of the other modalities and all the other themes for the other days, to start building up your confidence within yourself. One, that you start to see yourself, you start to feel yourself, that you are worthy, that you are lovable, that you can put music on and dance in the kitchen or the lounge room or whatever.
Oh, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. So it's like, and I've got dance in there as one of the days.
I think that's what's so beautiful about the book. It's not just a book that you read and you read concepts and you go, yeah, wouldn't that be great? It is an invitation to apply, and it's in the application that it becomes an integration, and then you see the change that you aspire to. And I think it's a companion, that you journey with, more than just, hey, it's a book, and you go, oh, another book, it doesn't change my life. Good read, wish I could, wish it was me. Yeah. It really is a companion.
We're not splitting the atom here.
Yeah.
We're providing people with an opportunity to open up, but they need to make the choice. Most don't, because it's terrifying. Oh, my God, what happens if I actually do?
Yeah.
What happens if I actually discover who I know that I am, which is really beautiful and loving, and loving and caring, and passionate about life. But if I do that, then I'm going to open myself up to full frontal assaults from everyone, and I'm going to cop this and this and this. And what I say to people is that the walls that you're building are suffocating and drowning you all at the same time. So when you actually connect in with your heart space, that doesn't mean to say that you're a pushover. The opposite actually happens, because you start to reset your boundaries. And so the people that have been treating you a particular way and you've been letting them treat you a particular way, you're saying, I actually rate myself now, not in a vain, narcissistic way, but in a loving, caring, nurturing way. That's like, I'm not going to put up with this anymore. So you have the conversations and say, John, Kay, love you, but this relationship needs to end. This friendship needs to come to an end. Something needs to change. Yeah. Because I'm not your verbal punching bag. I'm not the end of a joke, or whatever it happens to be. And you start to reclaim yourself. It empowers you, which means you can step out and start being you, who you feel, who you know you are from your heart. And your heart is your values base. All of your values come from your heart space. And so I take people through values from a heart perspective. So when people do values, it's an interesting exercise in regards of, because we're all loving and caring and wonderful and truthful and honest and authentic. And it's like, no, you're freaking not. It's like, okay, because your ego and your head brain, because I talk about our multiple brains a lot, is what answers the question. So if you're doing this in a work environment, what's my values, or you're doing it online for the quizzes, you're sort of on there and you're like, and you're having a look, and it's just like, yeah, but if I say that, and if Kay sees it, she's going to think I'm an idiot or whatever, so I'm going to say this. Yeah. So you get these values coming back, and your core values, and you're sort of like, that's definitely me, but you know within yourself that it's not. So you gift yourself time to actually do your values properly from your heart space. It provides you with a completely different perspective that's really nuanced to a point where it's like, wow, I've got to start making some real different choices now.
Yeah. And then I think that one of the powerful choices for people is to go and work with someone like yourself or with someone like myself that I don't know how you see yourself, John, but I just say, look, I'm merely a guide who knows the terrain. You're going to do the work, but I'm just here with you, navigating you through that. Because if you really want to make that choice and take that courageous journey, and I agree with you 100%, because it doesn't take confidence, it takes courage. The confidence is on the other side of that journey. And having that person to help you unpack, that stuff and put it down and reclaim parts of yourself is probably one of the best investments. I know they've been the best investments I've ever invested in myself in life. Because you're right. If you're sitting there going, I can just do this myself, you'll never go to the places that you really need to go to because there's just such an underlying fear and protectiveness around it.
Oh, and when you don't feel worthy, when you don't feel good enough, or, well, if I sit down and tell Kay this, then she's going to judge me and she's going to think this. Whereas we're neutral.
Yeah.
And ecstatic and happy that you're even making the choice, but holding the ground as a neutral, objective observer, guide, to basically say, great, love, compassion, encouragement.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's about. And so courage is really important on the journey.
Yes.
Faux courage is one thing. Actually going deep, courage comes from your gut brain. So right down there in your guts, in regards of getting that feeling and driving it up to make a choice, to make a decision, is really important. And once people do that and say, right, every day I'm going to make a courageous choice for me.
Yes.
And when you do that, things start to change. And the other thing too is the way that social conditioning's been happening over the past 15, 20 years with social media, the big multinationals spending billions of dollars on targeted psychological ad campaigns to basically have you, salivating at everything every other day. So you're getting these little dopamine hits and whatever in regards of, okay, well, there's this, and like every, 6 months there's a new iPhone and a new watch and a new this and a new that.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I read the book and my life's still the same. And you're like, yeah, you put nothing into practice. You don't do any of what's been outlined. We've been, like I say to people, if we're journeying together for more than 6 months, I'm basically saying we're done.
Wow.
So I'll be with folks and say, even after a month or two.
Yeah.
So I've asked you to do this. You can't do it. And I've asked you, and we'll spend a little bit of time on this, this, and this. You're choosing not to. It's about time you found someone else, or you start to get honest with yourself about what you truly want here.
Yeah, look, both feet on the field is how you play the game. You can't play it by sitting on the sidelines. You can't even play it by having just one foot on the field and the other one you're still sitting on the sidelines.
Yeah, you've got to be on the court.
You've got to be on the court and you show up 100%. I know someone like yourself would be like me. I'm showing up 100% for you. But, people will go, well, what's the guarantee? And I'll go, well, the guarantee is if you show up 100%, you're going to get 100% results. You show up 30%, you'll get 30% results. I'm showing up 100% for you. But, and I'll support people to get right on the field. And once they do that, it's incredible.
Yeah, that whole argument, that whole line of questioning about, I want a guarantee, is another block that we'll put up there because they still don't feel worthy. So it's like, well, I'd need you to convince me 100%. It's like, well, I can't.
Yeah.
And I'm not. So when you get to a place where the pain is that acute, the torture is that acute, the wounding is really coming to the surface, it's impacting every single part of your life.
Yeah.
do something about it, or you won't. And if you're fortunate enough to get into your 80s or 90s or whatever, and you actually are on your deathbed, and it isn't a sudden heart attack or a stroke or whatever it might be, and you have regrets because you didn't take that chance, make that choice back when you were 45, when you were 52, when you were 38.
You're never too old and you're never too young. I had a beautiful woman who did both my programs. She's now passed over, but she was 62.
Yep.
And she was like, oh, I wish I'd found you all those years ago. She'd done a lot of spiritual things, etc. And but she kept saying, I am changing from inside. I feel all this gorgeous gooey stuff in my heart center now. You know, that voice of knowing is so loud for me now. Her relationship with her son, he even came in one day and he couldn't believe that she hadn't responded in a way that she normally does. But she kept saying, I'm different from the inside out. And the joy and the youthfulness that started to emanate from her.
Yeah.
And I just said to her, well, you're just lucky you're doing it now at 62. Do you know what I mean? Like it's, and when she sadly passed, she passed so deeply connected with herself and her sense of something more powerful than that. She was so at peace.
Yeah.
Beautiful thing, you know. So we're never too old to start. We're never too young to start.
No, and the thing is too that it's age is a man-made construct.
Yeah. As
we were saying at the start in regards of, you know, I'm 56, don't feel 56, feel like I'm 17 or 18. It's not about learning. It's about feeling.
Mm.
And learning's all head brain stuff, which is great, by the way, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But when you gift yourself an opportunity to go into your heart space, whether you're 16 or 66 or 76 or 86, and you start to forgive yourself and you start to love yourself and you start to sort of feel differently. A lot of people can't do that, but those that actually choose to do it unburden themselves, unshackle themselves, bring themselves into a space like where your friend was, where she reconnected with her family and her son at a deeper level, at a heart level, and she was feeling in those emotive feelings and descriptions that she was, saying to you.
Yeah, it's all this gorgeous chocolatey, syrupy
gooey
stuff in my heart, you know, yeah.
And so the sad thing about that is, where was it for the previous 60-odd years?
Mm.
And so, you know, gifting yourself an opportunity to actually feel that joy. And there's a difference between joy and happiness.
Yes.
And so happiness is fleeting. It sort of comes in. It's an emotional hit. Bang, great, happy, laugh. Joy is something you build up over time.
Yeah.
And like gratitude, it becomes part of your foundational sequence in regards of, you know, living a joyful life, irrespective of what's whirling on around you. And so, you know, the lady at 66 reconnecting in with her heart space and gifting herself a chance to sort of say, you know what, I actually feel different. And that re-immersion into love and compassion and nurturing and caring. And then her family members are feeling it and they're experiencing it. And it's just like, what's going on with mum? And that loving, caring, nurturing sense of self and spirit comes through.
Yeah.
And so that's that energy impact that it has in regards of your family, your friends, your connections, the people that you might even pass in the street, where you walk past and say good morning, good afternoon, how you going, having a chat in the line at Woolies or Aldi or whatever. And, you know, just whatever it is, but your energy and persona is rooted in compassion and love.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the foundation where it comes from. It's like when your intuition picks up on something, if you're walking past someone or you're at a place and sort of looking around the room, or you're at a conference or an event or something and someone goes past, or you're having a chat and you're like, oh, God, you know, you feel it.
Yeah.
Something isn't right there. The opposite is true.
Mm-hmm.
in regards of someone who has an energy about them, has a way about them, has a sense about them, and it's just like you just feel really good being around them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And letting people know that they can be in that space.
Yeah.
Okay. And they can be strong and they can be empowered and they can be living their best life. And living your best life doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have 100 million followers on Instagram or live in a triple-story house on the beach or drive a red Ferrari. It's going to the beach. It's spending time with your kids or whatever it might be for those people. Gifting yourself an opportunity to actually choose and know that this is what you truly want. This is what truly brings you joy, makes you happy, makes you feel alive.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about.
One of the best decisions I made, Dr. John, was listening to my inner voice of knowing when it's like I need to bring the masculine voice into this podcast.
Yep.
And, the men that are showing up, going, yes, or if I've invited them all now asking me, can I be on, I think is just so powerful to show and demonstrate, beyond that warrior masculinity, and that you can, and the two can sit together. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Even watching the stuff that you're doing down on the beach and swimming in ice cold waters and, all that sort of stuff, but then also being able to contain that gentleness, that self-worth. The way I put it is love, compassion, understanding, and forgiveness, very similar along those lines. And so I really thank you for being on. Given that the title of the podcast is Inner Voice of Knowing, how do you feel that your inner voice of knowing has served you?
Well, it's brought me to where I am right now.
Yeah.
And when you gift yourself an opportunity to actually listen to that inner voice, it's your inner voice for a reason. Okay. And your inner voice knows.
Mm-hmm.
So when you choose to listen to it, when you choose to connect in with it, you gift yourself an opportunity to actually start walking and moving on that path you're always meant to be on. So for me, connecting in with your heart space is that inner voice.
Yes.
It knows. So listen to it, understand it, follow it, integrate it into the decisions that you're making every day.
Trust it.
Correct. You have to trust yourself first.
Yeah.
And that's part of the journey too. So that inner voice of knowing will transform your life if you make the choice to gift yourself the opportunity to actually do it. And that's what's at stake. Just your life, so don't worry about it.
And I just love that you use the word gift, because it is one of the greatest gifts that we can give ourselves.
And it's free.
And it's free. Oh my gosh, Dr. John, I could talk to you for ages. I've had chills literally the whole time washing over me. And one of the things about truly heart-centered, authentic people is you feel that calmness in the presence. And I feel that calmness in your presence. You're not trying to sell or rah-rah or anything. You yourself are living this. And I know you have that same passion that I have, that same sense of purpose, that, I'm here to bring that about in others, as well. So what we're going to do is at the bottom of the description, we're going to have the link to your website. And again, I can highly recommend your two books are on Amazon as well, aren't they? So, The Journey of 100 Hidden Hearts is very much that book that I said is that companion that will take you through building that foundation, and Heart Unbound as well. And, Dr. John, thank you so much for being the masculine voice of heart. And I know that more and more men are now ready for this. and will come out, and, you know, whether they choose to work with a female or whether they choose to work with a male. But I thank you for being one of those voices already speaking the language of the heart. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure, and thank you for your love and your compassion and care for those, not just in Australia, but around the world as well, because it's needed. And the more people like your good self that are out there spreading the message, letting people know that there is a different way, there is another way. It's not an easy way. If it was easy, everyone would do it.
Yes.
But it's a way that will open you up, that will transform your life.
Oh, let that one land. Thank you so much, Dr. John.
Pleasure.
Join me on my next episode. And if you love this podcast, please subscribe by clicking on the plus button if you're on Apple, or like and follow on Spotify, rate and review, and please share Inner Voice of Knowing with your friends.